Okay, I'm going to assume that's everyone who's going to make it so far. So, you all listening? Right, so trail braking. Ultimately, well, there's three main reasons why trail braking is faster than standing on the brakes and then lifting and then turning, which is what you kind of conventionally taught when you're driving a car or something. Um, but there's three main reasons why it's quicker. You can brake about 5% later, which will automatically be quicker, and still get to the apex. You'll be more accurate with the positioning of your car. I'll explain why that is. And every car, every race car, and particularly in this game, you'll notice, and in other sims as well, in real life, whatever, pretty much every race car is always set up to understeer slightly. Um, that means with trail braking, you can get it to turn in, even though with an understeery setup, and that makes an understeery setups easier to drive harder and is more consistent. So you generally end up being quicker as well. So there's three main reasons. So the way to think of it, it's all about contact patches and grip. So imagine your front tires say have 100% grip to use. If you do full braking, that will use 100% of your grip, and the tires will go, yeah, okay, that's fine. So say full braking is 100% grip. Full turning might also be a requirement to use 100% grip. But if you brake at 100% and turn at 100%, you're asking the tires to give 200% grip, which they just don't have. So uh, with trail braking, you're trying to keep the maximum amount of grip you're asking for from the tires at 100%. So if you start turning a little bit, you have to lift off the brakes a bit to keep it around about that 100%. You won't feel or know exactly what 100% is. You'll just kind of know it from lap time and corner speed and how well you get into the corner, all that sort of stuff. You won't be able to feel that sort of grip. Certainly not in Gran Turismo anyway. Maybe some other sims you might. Um, so yeah, so the first thing about you can brake about 5% later. If you've got a 100-meter braking point, that becomes 95. 5% of your lap, say, could be braking phases. So over a 1 minute lap, that could be anything from half a second to 3 seconds slower, depending on the actual circuit. So that's why it's quicker. Um, and with being more accurate with your car positioning, um, so much like you can't, it works exactly the opposite way to when you put your foot down coming out the corner. If you try and stand on the throttle on exits, well, you can't. The back end will just come out and you'll spin. You'll ask too much of the tyres. Likewise, you can't stand full on the brakes turning into a corner because it'll do the same thing. So it's the same physics. It's just reversed. Um, so what else is I going to say on that? Yeah. So as with throttle, when you apply throttle, um, it's not just the steering that determines the direction of the car. It's how much throttle you put in the car. If you want the car to turn a bit more, you use a bit more throttle, and the back end will start to come around, so you'll get more turn. And the same happens with the brakes. You can actually get more or less turn depending on how much of the braking you want to use. So what that means is the steering sort of puts the main direction of the car, but you fine tune it with the brakes or the throttle. So this is why they say you're steering it on the brakes or steering it on the throttle, because you literally are. Um, so that is why you'll be more accurate with your car positioning into a corner. And of course, if you're more accurate, you're going to be more consistent, you're going to be quicker. So, and the third bit is every car is set up to understeer. Um, an understeery car is easier to drive. It's easier to drive fast. It's easier to rag it and easier to go as fast as you can. So, the trail braking will, with that sort of setup, will make you smoother and it will make you calmer because you won't be kind of throwing the car around. You'll be waiting for the suspension to load up and balance. So a smooth style allows the suspension time to settle, And that makes the car more predictable, more stable when entering the corner, and smoother and calmer is faster. So, but this is not really about trying to set a fast lap time. The idea of this session is just trying about learning it, because if you've been used to braking and then lifting and then turning, to then go to braking and turning and gradually feeding off the brakes and gradually adding more turn, it's going to take practice. You will not pick it up straight away. I mean, when I learned trail braking, I kind of taught it myself automatically. There's a long story for that, which I won't go into now, but it probably took me, I don't know, 2 or 3 months to sort of get in the habit, and at least 6 to get better at it. And probably ever since, for the past several years, I've still got room to improve and get better and better and better at it and get better feel and control and so on. So, yeah, so what I would probably want to show you, the reason I picked this track, 2 straights, 2 tight corners, and 2 opportunities to think about what you're going to do when you're going into the corner. So basically, you'll have a braking point somewhere. Here, my braking point is somewhere at the end of this fence on the right. Oh, if you go into the bumper cam view, so you can see what I'm seeing. So you can see the end of this fence on the right, and that photographer, I'm sort of braking between those two, so I'm hitting the brakes probably somewhere about here. With real world, you'd feed on the brakes. If you look at my brake trace, you'd feed it on, but Gran Turismo, you can just go whack, so it doesn't really matter about that. But if it's real world, you feed it on. So I'm basically doing full braking, and I'll be doing full braking pretty much to the point where I think I want to turn in. And if you look at the dot, once I get to about here, I'm going to start turning the wheel a bit and start feeding the brakes off. And as I get a bit closer to the corner, I'm going to be feeding the brakes off more and turning more. So when I'm getting to about here and I'm aiming at the corner, I'm going to be really trailing the brakes off, maybe even going down there. And if I find myself having to really crank the steering over, I'll be either using almost no brakes to letting the car roll around the corner. Most cars should, rolling around a corner, Newtonian physics is still braking. Oh, go away. Someone ringing me. Yeah. So even, I mean, Newtonian physics say that when you change direction, you're not actually changing direction, you're accelerating in a new direction. But if you don't accelerate in a new direction, you will slow down. So yeah, you will lose speed, and you'll still keep turning as you go in. This corner's only sort of dab of the brakes anyway, but I'm aiming to get this car right over here. And likewise, the one at the end of the straight, the end of this straight, is again about, you'll cite your own braking point as you get confidence. I wouldn't necessarily pick mine straight away, because if you're trying to do trail braking for the first time, you're probably going to get it wrong and you're just going to go skating straight on. Should be a spin, but now it's skating straight on. Right, my braking point is somewhere about here, so I'm looking at these chevrons on the left. So it's roughly the one before the 50-meter board. So I'll be like full brakes all the way down here, and then when I start seeing my turning point, which is somewhere around about here, maybe a slightly late apex, so I'll be full brakes, and as soon as I start turn, same thing, I'll be burning a bit of turn, bleeding off the brakes a bit, and then as I'm turning more, I'll be bleeding off the brakes more, and as I'm getting right round to the corner, and I'm pretty much where I think I want to be. If I think I'm going to hit the apex, I can bleed the brakes to almost nothing, or with this corner, if I'm getting to the apex here and when I hold it, I might not be on the throttle at all. And then same thing in reverse, when you're coming out the corner, you're adding more throttle, adding more throttle, adding more throttle till you're straight, and then you're going full throttle. So that's ultimately how you do it. And then yeah, say go for lap time if you want. It'll come, it might not come, but really you've got to practice it. So if you pay attention to my throttle position and my braking, you'll bleed it off. Now my trail braking is by no means perfect. my brake pressure will vary sometimes. You know, my steering input will vary sometimes, but so I missed that apex. Probably got cold tyres now actually, because it's sat around for ages. But that's it. You're just thinking about what you're doing in the corner. So the brakes and the throttle, sorry, the brakes and the steering work together. So you always tend to stop having to brake once you think you're going to hit the apex where you think you want to hit it. It's not necessarily where the game or the fastest guys think you should hit it. It's where you think you're happy with the turn in with the car, and that's generally when you can lift off the brakes. So I'm totally off the throttle, still got cold front tyres, well, is it? If I was not, I can heat my tyres up doing this, if I was going to just stand on the brakes, watch what happens if I just stand on the brakes going into this corner. Same braking point. Understeer. Massive understeer. So I've asked too much of the tyres. They can't, they're asking, you know, I'm asking for 200% grip and it can't do it. And it just understeers straight off. Yeah, the ABS tries to kick in. Yeah, so full brakes, and I've just understeered out. So yeah, yeah. So you'll always. Yeah, you'll only actually get the braking force you'll actually get is the white bit. The red bit is what you're trying to put in, but the game will only give you the white braking. Let's set the tyres up to temperature now. So you can see how the brakes bleed off with the steering. So this is why old people like me can still play the game and be reasonably okay at it, because it's not really about reactions, it's about timing. It's like dancing. You work the brakes and the steering together. yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's trail braking. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Some say people will drive differently to their own style, so same principles apply, same physics. Yeah. Yeah, there is. Yeah, you always want to pick your fastest car. You don't want to look at meta times. Just pick the car that you like the best. You know, simple as that. Yeah. This is because I'm working that I can see a different, you know, improving the braking point all the time. I mean, that's not really anything to do with trail braking. That's just learning the lap. You know, you'll brake just a smidgen later and accelerate a smidgen earlier, just to try and find, you know, the time. Me, no. Or entirely by feel. You don't look at the red dot when you're steering. You don't look at the throttle when you're accelerating. You just do it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you'll notice at no point am I whacking the steering over, whacking the brakes on, whacking the throttle on. It's always being progressive with them all, because if you whack, I mean, even if I get the trail braking right here, if I whack the steering, I'm just going to induce understeer, because the suspension didn't get a chance to load. It didn't get a chance to move the weight to the contact patch. Me, none. Yeah. This. Yeah. And when you're smooth, once I've worked out my lap, I should be able to lap pretty much within a tenth or two every lap. So long as, you know, tyres don't wear. I got it in equal conditions, so there's no wind and all that sort of stuff. So once I've worked my braking point and tyres don't either heat, I think they're probably starting to get a bit hot now. I should have put the app on my tablet to find out. Yeah, I use Sim Dashboard. You don't, to be honest, you don't really need it in Gran Turismo. Not unless you're doing endurance races and you're trying to save tyre wear and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So, have a go. I'll watch and see what's going on, and tell you what I'm, you know, whether you're being too aggressive or. Sorry. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way, sorry, there's one thing I was going to say. Once you start applying the brakes, you should only be trailing them off. You shouldn't be trailing them off, then putting them on again, trailing them off, putting them on again. So the brake pressure always goes down the closer you get to the apex, and the steering, yeah. So I see a lot of people, they'll hit the brakes aren't too confident, lift off, re-hit them, lift off a bit, re-hit them, and but that, if you imagine the car's just going to sort of start pitching up and down and all over the place, and you'll just unsettle it. So it depends on the car. Most of the time you can do that. That's like trail braking, but to almost no pressure at all. Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, you should have seen I was doing that in that last corner. I was lifting completely off and letting the car roll around the corner. You only need to apply throttle if, say, the corner's 55 mile an hour. You only need to apply the throttle to hold 55 mile an hour. If you're at 56, 57, lift off and let it go down to 55 as, you know, the optimal corner speed. So you don't need to worry about that either. Yeah. Yes. Who? Yeah. What you got to learn with trail braking is you need to have confidence that the car is still going to slow down enough for the corner as you're lifting off the brakes. But that's all really governed by your braking point. So you lifted off too soon. I'm looking at what at the minute. So yeah, so you just understeered out there because you're carrying too much corner speed, nothing else. What? Oh, what wheel are you on? Right. So yeah, just get in the habit of wherever you brake, just keep bleeding the brakes off, and until you feel the car start to do what you're trying to get it to do. You know, it starts taking the corner how you want to take the corner. So you don't necessarily have to use my braking points because I've got the confidence I'm going to use the trail braking, you know, where I need it. The new physics do seem to allow you to put full brake pressure in and a little bit of turn on the wheel. You didn't used to be able to do that. So you could hypothetically use 100% braking force and about 15%, 20% turn, and it'll let you do it. So I reckon they just made all these changes because it's been noted that Assetto Corsa Evo is the cars are quite stable. Yeah. I know, but that's not. Well, they made changes when Forza came out, didn't they? They changed the physics. I know. They just keep trying to, you know, this. I don't know how sneaky it is, but they're just trying to keep Gran Turismo ahead of the competition. And yeah. Yeah. One thing you can do with trail braking is if you don't want to look at your brake pedal and you're trying to think brake pressure, just think as you would slowly apply the throttle, just think I'll slowly disengage the brakes, and don't really worry about I'm at 50% steering, I need 50% brakes, and at 75% steering, I need 25% brakes. Just think I'll brake, and as soon as I start turning in, I'll slowly lift my foot off the brake, and that will mostly get you the trail braking you want, certainly for your first couple of months of trying to get a hang of it. And that will also teach you to be smooth anyway, but you can slowly bleed off and bleed on. I haven't got bop on this, have I? Have I got bop on? Where is it? I've just had mine. Where the hell is bop? Why can't I find that? Doesn't matter, I suppose, but yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it's just realised without bop on, the car performances are going to be different. So some of these cars might be faster in a straight line, so you definitely don't want to copy my braking, because I could just stick bop on, but why can't I find bop on the? You have to. Oh, that's why, because it's on free run. Right. Okay. Never mind then. So that's it. Yeah, it might. I'm just thinking it might be better to put it on so that he could at least try and copy my braking points, or at least brake a little bit earlier. But you'll have to find your own braking point then. Yeah, let me put it on a practice. I'll put it on a practice and then yeah, and put bop on, and then at least if you pick the same car as me, you got an idea of. Yeah. So now you could go for the same sort of braking points as I do, but because I can find it and bleed the brakes off well, you probably find that my braking points would be a bit too late, certainly when you're practicing, so you probably want to give it a few meters earlier anyway. Yeah, so I was going to say, and once you've had a go and get the feel for trailing the brakes in a front engine front wheel drive car, you want to pick a mid-engine rear wheel drive car and find out that the car turns in better by itself, so you don't have to trail the brakes as much. In fact, if you do, the back end will come round. But as I say, they've changed the physics. And I tried it in the Alpha the other day, and last night when I was choosing the track, and I stood on the brakes and it just understeered straight on. It's like, okay. So they are supposed to behave quite differently, but it doesn't seem like they do that anymore. So yeah, you're looking at just before the second chevron before the 50. Yeah, you can also, yeah, works better on cars that don't have a rev limiter. But yeah, when you hit the rev limiter, you get no engine braking at all. So that's essentially what you're doing when you're going around a corner. If you lift, is you're getting engine braking, but you actually lose more speed through the accelerating in the direction, Newtonian physics thing. If you ever look it up and look at the maths, you'll see that it's actually more than engine braking. So I was going to have a look at what I was doing then. What car are you in? The McLaren. There's actually too light braking to start off with. You only had about half brakes. So when you're straight, you can stand on the brakes. It's only when you turn in you can't. As I say, it will take you hours and hours to get the hang of it, and most of the time it will be confidence in the belief that you haven't braked too late for the corner and that you're still going to make the corner. Lead now. Yeah, so you could have braked slightly later. On that last corner you could have braked slightly later because you ended up rolling into the corner when you really wanted to still be playing the brakes, so you'd have been going too slow, basically. Yeah, even the Veyron, which was an absolute monster for braking too late into a corner, it just understeers now if you stand on the brakes. It used to be quite a tricky car, especially like, say, Turn 1 at Daytona road course. Seeing as I didn't have BOP on, I'm wondering if my braking point should be a bit different. It might be actually later, looking at what's going on there. I've got no idea what setup I was using on that car. Oh, it's not too bad. There's one other thing you can... Sorry, go on. Oh, you were just chatting, yeah. There's one other thing you can do as well, and it seems more apparent in these physics, is you can actually whack the brake bias right to the rear. If you have, well, I don't know about fixed, it's just more forgiving. I usually run brake bias right to the rear anyway, because with it on the rear, you can actually get more turn. So let's see what happens on with pop on. Whack the brake bias to the rear. But you won't get as much braking force in a straight line. If the car's set up properly, you shouldn't have to do that. Put the brake bias to the rear. Neutral brake bias should be perfect. You only really need to put it to the rear with increasing front tyre wear or something. But Gran Turismo can be pretty frustrating because some of the cars are horribly understeering. No, it looks like the braking points are about the same actually. Car's definitely faster though. I don't know what setup I had. No, I had a setup. Last time I used this car without bop on, it was in a different lobby. It wasn't. Try following. Yeah. Oh, I won a championship in this car on this thing. Yeah, that's why it says esports championship with the shit bit crossed out. So yeah, the first step in learning the trail braking, I would say, is to get in the habit of just bleeding the brakes off, and then once you've programmed that in, which will take you a month or two, depending how much you play the game, then you can think about applying more or less braking so that you can, when you're heading for the apex or wherever you're trying to put the car, then you can start modulating the brakes. That's where the brakes become a fine tune to the steering. So if you can choose the line you want to go into a corner, then you can actually start battling. Because if someone's say going down a corner and they're defending the inside, you can go, right, okay, I'm going to go the wide line and then cut back for a later apex, and maybe either try and do a switchback on the inside or go for better exit speed. Yeah, so I can then brake a little bit later, but stay on the brakes longer, and then trail off a bit more dramatically and turn in a bit more dramatically, so that I'm then going for a later apex. And that means I can get a tighter line, or tighter, straighter line out, which means I can put the throttle down harder. So when you get trail braking, once you get used to using the brakes to position the car as it goes into a corner, you then don't have to stick to the normal racing line. You can brake, you can go tighter up the corner, you can go wider in, and you can do whatever the guy in front is not doing. And that's how you tend to gain track position, as they call it. So What's that, sorry? Oh yeah, I do loads of switchbacks. Yeah, I use loads of switchbacks. Scopey's is getting the hang of it. Scopey's getting better. Yeah. Spoke too soon. The lap before into turn 1, you did it pretty well. Yeah, I mean, ideally the fastest way round a corner is to either be braking or accelerating, never just rolling. You know, you're always trying to find the perfect speed. But yeah, you should never. There's very few corners you have to do it in, but you should never be in a situation where you're not accelerating or braking. Yeah, see, that was better. So you see how it just got into the corner. Yeah. Yeah. This is why it's easier on a wheel to do trail braking, because you can be more precise. Yeah, that's good. That's better. So you can feel, you can see the turn happening, can't you, before your eyes? But it's not though, because you're already 6/10 up. But you got to remember. Is it? Yeah, well that's that. Yeah. This is where you need to program in the feel for trail braking so that you don't have to think about it. Because as soon as you're battling, you're trying to think about the other car and think about what you're doing, and you'll struggle. So this is why with trail braking, you just need to get in the habit of doing it everywhere so that it's second nature. Yeah. And so never get frustrated with it and never give up on it, because it will take you ages to learn. Yeah, well, in real life you can mash the gears because you'll get more engine braking, but Gran Turismo, and you wouldn't have to drop it an extra gear to get it into the apex. But Gran Turismo's physics are not, how can we say, very realistic. So you can actually use a lower gear to get more turn. That shouldn't really happen. But until then, that's because you're not hitting the rev limiter. So you just want to downshift so that you're not hitting the rev limiter on the gears. But ideally at high revs. Yeah. When I first started racing, because I've done a few saloon cars and Formula First and stuff like that, geared cars, the downshifting was like a way of timing my entry to the corner. So a lot of people go shift, 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 or shift, 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 whereas I will just go shift, 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 and it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, turn. So that's where timing comes in as well. But it's not about reactions, it's about timing. Yeah, rev limiters will cut all engine braking, so it'll reduce your braking ability. So like all the Group 4 cars, will have rev limiters, so you won't get as much braking force. Some of the old 50s, 60s, 70s cars won't have rev limiters, so you can mash the gears, and rather than you blow the engine up, as would happen in real life, you just get massive engine braking, which doesn't apply to your tyres' braking ability, which it should, but it doesn't in Gran Turismo. See, that was a bit hard on the brakes, that one, so you missed the apex. Yeah, a tad too late, and then you panic braked too hard, and then so even though it seemed like you could have been going faster because you braked later, you ended up going a lot slower because you just missed the apex. Yeah. But the ABS is definitely helping you out these days. That was not bad. Once you get the feel for it, you'll find your lap times will automatically get more consistent. Again, that won't happen for a month or two, but yeah, that's why you never want to look at time trials and leaderboards and stuff, because loads of people can put in a fast lap through trial and error. You know, it's the sort of physics they call the infinite monkey problem. If the way that goes is if time was left to run long enough, a monkey could type out the complete works of Shakespeare just by randomly hitting the keys, if you had enough time. So they call it the infinite monkey problem. So anyone can put in a fast lap if they just keep trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. But they might not have any consistency whatsoever. So there's a guy I raced in a league with called Nicey Brakes, who can put in faster lap times than me on a time trial leaderboard. I mean, I'll probably only spend half an hour or something doing a time. Yeah. Where he, I know he spends ages doing it, but I've raced him in a league. And in a league, I completely killed him. So although he could do a faster time in a time trial, he didn't have the consistency lap after lap. And sometimes he could... did he ever beat me to a pole? I think he might have done it once or twice. But I just killed him on race pace. That's what Lewis Hamilton does. People think Lewis Hamilton is a pole setting expert. He was, yeah, exactly. So Hamilton has never been a qualifying specialist in his whole career, because I've watched him since I've watched him in Formula Renault since 2003, I think it was, and he was in a different league to everyone else there, but even in GP2 and early Formula 1, he was never a qualifying specialist. What he did is he kills people on race pace, like Max, but he'll do it. Yeah, but he'll do it lap after lap after lap after lap. Whereas other drivers will be slightly more inconsistent. I mean, they're all Formula 1 drivers; they're really consistent anyway. But the variance at the top level is tenths, hundredths of a second. So even though Hamilton's got a massive pole record, he's not a qualifying specialist and has never been a qualifying specialist. Yeah, he had the fastest car. And I mean, yeah, you look at how he fared against Nico Rosberg. Rosberg got quite a lot of poles versus Hamilton, but Hamilton beat him more often than not in the races because he just kills them on race pace. So you should learn to run with traction control off, by the way, because that will teach you smoothness on the throttle as well as the brakes. You really don't need it in Group 4 cars, not unless you're in the wet or on hard tyres in cold conditions or something. You alright? So yep. So yeah, it's practice, practice, practice. Feed brakes off, feed throttle on, feed steering in, feed steering in.